Hello, everyone. It is good to be back. It is Friday for a Friday with Fred. I'm Fred Faulkner. If you don't know who I am, my handle is according to Fred. I do some Friday chats every once in a while, and it has been a long time since I've been able to have a chat like this because the last time Adobe Summit was in person was 2019, and we've had a rough couple of years not being back on the trade show circuit. A lot's changed since 2019 as well, not only from what Adobe and its products have been doing, as well as just conferences in general and our conferences back. This is probably my first major conference that I've been to since the pandemic started, and we all got sent home back in 2020. And Adobe Summit went virtual in a very quick amount of time. So it's excited to be back. I'm excited, and it is exciting to be back in Las Vegas this year. This Friday with Fred is to kind of really cover about what's getting me excited about Adobe Summit. And what to expect. I think if you are a first-time attendee, what you could be looking forward to, what you should probably some tips to kind of go off and make sure you're making the most of your experience. Hey, Deb, how you doing? Thanks for joining today. And we're going to cover a few things that I'm excited about. So let's get started and dive back in. I think one of the first things that I am super excited for this year is the fact that it is back, that it is in person. I can't express the fact that even just being virtual, I've done the virtual conference last couple of years. It's great from a content perspective. They're really professionally done. I think Adobe did a fantastic job and continues to do a fantastic job of being able to pre-record sessions, making sure the virtual experience was as best as possible using a number of different platforms over the years. And they did a good job, but I don't think anything really solves the fact that being in person with colleagues, having that actual impromptu discussion can be replaced in any virtual environment. I don't really care about what one-on-one sessions you try and do with a virtual chat and other scheduled meetings and Zooms. It really does come down to that moment where you're walking around, you're seeing your colleagues, you're seeing people you haven't seen in years. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see here at Adobe Summit. And that's one of the things that I'm most excited about is just being back and being in person and seeing the people that I've not seen for years. Because a lot's changed. I've changed. I'm now at a new company. I'm not still at ICF Next. I'm at a company called Bounteous now. And we're an Adobe partner, but a lot of my colleagues are now at different companies too. So now I get to see a bunch of my friends back and forth as well. And I'm super excited about that one as well. Let's see, another person. I think I know who this is. I believe this is probably Dan Knopf. AWS reInvent was back live in 2021, but lacked that special feeling on Adobe can provide. I agree. I think just Adobe does a spectacular job with its events. The attention to detail on some of the things that they do, attending in person really does make a difference. And I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. I also think there's, the idea of if you're just going for content, I think, Adobe's doing a hybrid environment this year where you're going to have, if you want to go to 10 sessions and great, you're going to have that opportunity with sessions to be online. I do think though, it's the in-person part that makes a difference. And, the easiest way to say it is like just bumping into people, walking around the showroom floor. But I'm wondering though, they're saying that the attendance numbers are down than pre-pandemic, which I think is expected. I think every conference is a little bit down when it comes to who's spending money to actually physically go places, who's comfortable going places. They're expecting around 10,000, which I think is an interesting number. I think at its height in 2019, when we were all there, was closer to 20 to 25,000. So it'll be really interesting to see actually who's there. But a trend that I've been also hearing from colleagues and peers in the industry that are going back to conferences that, in person is also maybe driving a different quality of attendee. And as a vendor, as a sponsor, I'm excited to see if that's truly the case. The people that are there are really interested in actually learning about, products and solutions from partners and vendors in addition to the education sessions. So I'm really excited to kind of see what really happens from that perspective, from an attendee attendance and value and quality perspective that is happening there. So in person, I don't think you can beat it. It's just a vibe. It's a energy. I don't think you can really get out of the energy you can get from being at an in-person event. And I hope if you have an opportunity to go to an in-person event, pick wisely, but I hope you can find some of that energy that really drives from being in person, the connections, meeting new friends, making new friends, meeting old friends, that just getting together for a coffee, even if you're just standing in the Starbucks line for forever, it matters. It's those little moments that matter. And they're the surprise and delight moments that sometimes can lead to that next opportunity, whether that be for business, whether that be for, just a connection standpoint. I think it's really super important that in-person connections can do that virtual just can't really replace. Let's see, another comment. I don't know who this is, unfortunately, down because the pandemic concerns are possibly related to more they've gotten to use virtual. I think it's actually a combination of several of these things. So I do think people are still getting comfortable going back. I will also say I'm going to bet that still companies, when they look at what the budgets they saved by not sending people to in-person things, is going to matter. Like I think spending and budgets are not going to be the same. I also think as we look at recession, potential recession, whether it's really going to hit or not, if it's a hard landing or a soft landing, whatever that might be, I also think companies right now in 2023 are looking to make the most out of their current investments and not making new acquisitions of products and services, or maybe they'll make services. Obviously, I hope that's the case, but maybe not new products. So getting the best bang for their buck and doing the most they can with what they have. So I think those that are attending are going to be looking to get that kind of value from whoever they're interacting with, including Adobe themselves, but hopefully their partner ecosystem. That's going to be very prevalent there. But I do think companies are holding back on travel spend. I do think maybe they have seen not the need to send people because virtual exists. There is a hybrid option. I do think hybrid's pulling people from not going. But again, I hope the people that are coming are the ones that are actually looking for products and services from vendors, and other interactions and networking than just I'm going for the 1 or 2 sessions that they can get online. It's a push and pull. It'll be really interesting to see if they offer virtual next year, if that's a mainstay for them moving forward, especially because the online version is free and you still have to pay to be there in person. I think it's the value adds you're going to get what the in-person part kind of comes down to. But it's a really great question. I think the budgets are actually immediately a part of that decision-making process. Absolutely, one of the biggest decision makers and deciders from that standpoint. So yeah, so in person, super excited about that. It's going to be a long week. Always is a long week, but it'll be really fun to be back there and be back there in person. So what else am I looking forward to? I think one of the things that was mentioned earlier, the AWS, which I think is Dan. I do think Adobe does a great job of how they present on the first day, their general session, how they do product announcements, and how they really get everyone kind of hyped up on what's going on in the Adobe ecosystem. Day one is just going to be spectacular, fantastic. It's going to be all about products. I actually don't know what they're going to announce. To be honest, this is my first year where I kind of don't really have a gut. I actually have an idea. I'll talk about it a little bit later. But it's not the obvious thing, meaning like they just made a big acquisition. So now we're going to talk about how, Marketo is being integrated into the system, or how Magento, from a commerce perspective, Figma is still sitting out there. It's not approved. It's not finalized. So that, as much as maybe Figma would have been a great addition into how that like blends into Adobe XD, and how all this new consumer base is going to be merging into this now continuing growing ecosystem of Adobe's creative to delivery to marketing to experience optimization, whole through line. That's not official yet. So I don't think that's going to be a big topic. So it's really going to be interesting to see what they talk about. Is it just going to be product advancements? Is it going to be some new thing that has evolved? My next kind of part here, I'll talk about where I think they're going from a maturity standpoint, but I'm actually not sure what they're going to talk about. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they say. And I'll plan on doing some sort of content update or some sort of stream after product announcements to kind of give my hot take on what I heard and what I see, and where I think that kind of fits into the Adobe's plan and how that affects customers and consumers of their products. But for right now, I actually have no idea what they're going to be announcing. And that actually is a little bit it's a little scary, but it's also really exciting at the same time, because who knows what they've been cooking up for the last couple of years that they really wanted to drop at an in-person event versus in a virtual announcement type of an event, from that perspective. But I do think if they're going to announce anything, I think it's going to come back to platform maturity. So it's going to be announcements of things where they're going to have this evolution of what the platform has continued to do. So over the last couple of years, and since the Experience Cloud has come to fruition, and they've made all these assembly of all their parts together, analytics and personalization and data have been really the theme that they've started to really been working through the last 5-6 years. They first started with the announcement of Adobe Experience Platform. So it's the data layer that sits beneath all the different solutions and tools. They've continued to make interesting progressions through looking at how data is coming into place. So now they've got the CDP, they've got their now they've got customer journey orchestration, which is going to be the advanced version of what you're going to see with Adobe Campaign and multi-channel campaign management. You have customer journey analytics, which is now your advanced version of Adobe Analytics, which just isn't web-based or screen-based. Now you have all this other data coming into play. And then you got I mentioned the CDP. So I think CDP, customer journey orchestration, and customer journey analytics, these are their products. They're not an acquired product. These are the evolution of maybe the acquisitions and some of the technology, but it's their tool, it's their solution. And so I think that's where you're going to continue to see this theme. I think the big themes you're going to see is going to be really around real-time personalization, which is driven by data and insights, which is going to be driven by multi-channel. And how does this now also lead into this idea of what is a monolith platform? What's headed, what's headless, what's hybrid? How does Adobe fit inside that ecosystem? You're hearing more and more about composable solutions and what actually fits together with best of breed. And there's always this pitting against what's the big monolith systems that might categorize Adobe and others into versus the Mock Alliance and some of the more composable solutions. It'll be really interesting to see how they kind of start to mesh that together, and if these are some of the answers to a composable answer or somewhat have a hybrid answer to this whole composable argument that sits out there. But I do think it's gonna be more about the announcements are gonna be really more about platform maturity at the end of the day. And I think that's where we'll see most of our announcements, most of our take. If you actually look at a lot of the sessions this year, there's a lot of it around personalization in real time. A lot of it is around just kind of advancing the digital foundation that the card they've been playing the last couple of years. I think we're now seeing enough of their customers getting into this more mature model that they now have to have support for all of that at the same time. All right, another take coming in here. How much do you think they will talk about or address trends of more composable solutions? Yep, I agree. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I do think they're going to have to hit it at some point right on the nose. Is it here in the general sessions at Adobe Summit, in the general session where they have all their attendees sitting there looking at it and square in the face? Or will it be like notes that you're going to hear in the actual education sessions at different touch points? That's a really great question. I think they have to address it at some point. I think the composable argument is starting to come more and more. And the funny thing is, like, you can still have a composable architecture and still sit within and side by side with an Adobe that's sitting out there. As much as companies may want to start to evolve and move into a composable solution, I don't think you can rip and replace. And I certainly don't think they have to be one or the other. I think you can actually thread the needle where certain things you can do in a monolith area, but then be agile or more agile per se in a composable space. I don't know the real answers, but they're going to have to continue to address it. And I think the way they address it is this hybrid to headless, where they're just starting to see more and more in the AEP thing. I think is what's really going to start to drive some of that, and other aspects of how they're continuing to evolve Experience Cloud, so the Experience Manager in the cloud in its new form and version that's going to be out there as well. Who else we have here? Again, I'm sorry with the LinkedIn user thing. I don't know what the connection issue is there. If there's something that has to be authenticated, I wish I knew who all you great people are engaging with. As a solution provider, how are you prepared to address when customers drop by the booth? With open arms and a hello. And if I would love to give hugs, but I don't think that's probably be too creepy, but it's definitely with open arms. And it's definitely going to be a warm conversation of, what is going on in your world today and how do we, find ways to, solve those solutions. I am excited about actually talking to customers. I'm excited to be in the booth. I'm excited about what our booth is going to be. Personally, it is the biggest booth I've ever had at a conference. It's going to be spectacular. I'm super excited. And what can we do to solve problems? How are we going to engage? How we want to show you some of our demos that we're doing, but really just start having conversations. I think that is one of the best pieces about being in person, just having conversations that you cannot have in any other form that's out there. And yes, that is my good friend Dan. So Dan Knopf, who I used to work with over at ICF Next. So I think platform maturity is going to be the name of the game. And how do we get into this? Touching on the different aspects of what's going on in the ecosystem. The sessions are going to be really interesting. I think there's, they continue to have over 200. It is a spectacular, lineup of things. You'll start to see themes as you go through the sessions that are on there. And if you are, there for the first time, you definitely want to make sure that you are seeing some of the sessions that exist. So I actually recommend not only the individual sessions, but if you go through and look at, they have these super sessions. So if you really want to see what's going on in your industry or maybe a specific topic, the super sessions are a great way to get some of that information and network with some of your peers. So if you're in travel hospitality, if you're in financial services, they have these super sessions, which are really, a number of things with like great industry speakers from clients, from T. Rowe Price and Fidelity and US Bank, just good sessions overall. So I really recommend, if this is one of those places you're going to spend your time, the super sessions and the industry specific solution sessions are a great place. In addition to just honestly just the individual sessions. There's something there for everyone. If you have an Adobe solution and you're going, you will not only find the one that hits your topic right on the head, but you're going to find something that's like the next problem you're going to have to solve for, and then the next problem you're going to have to solve for. These are all topics that are there. There's over 200. I'd be remiss in actually then promoting our own sessions. So if we sit here and we want to look at what Bounties is actually offering, we have a couple sessions. We're super proud of being a platinum sponsor. Here's my plug. But super proud of the sessions that we're having. So we're going to be having, we're going to be on stage with our good client and friends over here at CVS, building scalable customer-centric personalization, really talking about how CVS's journey and they're innovating all the things they're doing around personalization. It's a fantastic session. Highly recommend. That's on Tuesday, the 22nd from 1 to 2 p.m. Definitely recommend going there and talking to Ben and Abby from Bounteous. Great team talking about that. And then a little bit later that day, also on the 22nd from 4 to 5, we have Jordan talking with our client, Hilton Grand Vacations, about scaling automation with campaign. Again, and then our approach with co-innovation, another fantastic session. Really encourage everyone to go there. Adobe's involved in this session as well. Just great work all around. I think there's some great case studies and some great success stories for you to kind of lean in and learn some more from that. If you are a woman that's going to be at Adobe Summit and you just want to kind of network with other females and others in your industry, we have a Women of Innovation Lounge that we're doing. If you want to hit bounties.com/Adobe-Summit, you'll be able to kind of sign up to go to that. But that's actually like off the show floor. We have a little bit of a space to do a little refresh and recharge. And then we have some great attendees that have signed up for that from all different companies. If you really just want to do a networking thing, this is the place to go. And then lastly, I am super excited to say and announce, share that we have been an Adobe Rockstar finalist 5 times and we're won twice. We're hoping for a third. So we have our Diana here is on the list for Thursday afternoon, and hopefully we'll be winning our third AEM Rockstar award this year. So lots going on from a actual content perspective. Super excited about what we're doing there as a company, but also just some great education sessions. Highly recommend you fill your dance card, as they say. Fill the dance card up, but also leave room for other ways that you can engage with everyone that's there. So there's always Adobe Sneaks. That is actually one of the fun things you do on Wednesday before Bash. I think the interesting thing, and this is where I think things are going to get kind of tricky, or maybe not tricky, but really interesting, is going to be, what are the product things they've been working on that aren't quite there. So if you're not familiar with Sneaks, this is where they get to show off all their kind of R&D. They say roughly 10 to 15% of the stuff they show off at Sneaks ever really makes it into a product, but they have a lot of great fun product announced, kind of product demos and kind of the vision of the future where they're going, and just use it as a feedback session more than anything else. But they've had great people in the past kind of co-host. They've had, Kristen Bell, they've had Dan Levy. This year they have Tig. I forget her last name. I should know this. That is going to be on the, this will be co-hosting that. Tig Notaro. She's going to be there talking about, it's kind of just comedy in general and just kind of other things to kind of make the session a little more lighthearted. Shaq was supposed to be there. I guess we had a scheduling conflict. Something came up where they had to kind of scramble, but now we have Tig that's going to be there co-hosting that. And then also announced when they announced Tig joining for Sneaks is that you also have Damar Hamlin is going to be one of the keynotes, which is always fun because they have a big, sports athlete that usually speaks at these events. And I don't think there's anyone that knows that story better than from a news story from sports is Damar Hamlin right now. It'll be really interesting to see him on stage as well. So let's see here. Oh, I've got another comment. So yes, Tig. Yes, we are very excited to see Tig on stage. That is for sure. Okay, let's talk about where I think things are going to get interesting this year. And if you have been under a rock and you haven't been paying attention to what's going on in anything in technology these days, then you've probably heard in the last week about every major platform has announced some AI tool that has some integration with something like ChatGPT. Do I think Adobe is going to announce some integration with ChatGPT? Nope, I don't. But my prediction right now, and this is my disclaimer, we may be an Adobe partner. I don't have insights to their roadmap. This is purely Fred coming off the cuff and what I'm seeing in the landscape. And if I were Adobe, where would I be making my play for a push that keeps Adobe top of mind in consumer, in their product, and their customers' minds? And that is going to come down to AI. I think Adobe Sensei gets an upgrade. I don't know if it's going to be smoke and mirrors, if it's going to be real deal, but I think if I'm Adobe and I'm bringing all my customers to a stage and everything in the world is talking about AI right now, I'm playing up what AI does and what Adobe Sensei does for my product base at this event. So my prediction right now is that Adobe Sensei is getting an upgrade. I don't think you can accomplish what Adobe and every other DXP, but what Adobe tries to say with real-time personalization and true data insights and being able to activate that customer journey. I don't think you get there without Adobe Sensei getting an upgrade. It's been a great partner. It's been a great solution they announced, a number of years ago, and you've seen the integrations continue to upgrade and how they bring Sensei as a foundation underneath the platform. But I think they make it more front and center this year. I think that's the big thing they're going to say. It's not going to be about using a chat interface. Maybe they make some announcement that kind of does go into that world, but I think they play up how they can do better. They play up the asset integration and all the asset features that Sensei does. So the smart cropping of video when you're on mobile, the smart cropping of photos, this dynamic tagging, all the things that makes a content creator more successful. I think that's where they're going to play it up. I also think you can't get to real-time personalization without dynamic, automated, maybe AI-driven content creation. And if it can use all the data and insights that's coming from its ecosystem, from your customer's ecosystem, and then using that to drive all the different A/B tests or all the different nuances of what I want to see Fred Faulkner when I visit sites that are powered by Adobe's platforms versus maybe a Megan Burns who was just up there versus maybe a Dan Knopf who's been on, been chatting here. I don't think you can have a marketer can do all the different content nuances. And if you want to get the true one-to-one, not one to segment, but one-to-one personalization, AI is the way that has to go. And that's where I think if they're not doing it this year, they got to get there sooner than later. I think Adobe Sensei is their platform to do that in. And they don't have to use the words chat GPT, but they got to be able to say something about AI. And I think this is where they make their card. This is where they drop the card down. And this is where they play the pocket aces if they have to. But if I'm going to say anything, this is where I would think they place their bet. This is where I would place my bet at this particular point in time. All right, I'm guessing this is Dan again, but Chad, all the press these days are 100% Gen. Yep, there's hundreds of AI, again, hundreds of tools. Sensei's been around 4 years, 100%. Adobe should take a stance of being open to integrated with any of this in the sense of your business, potentially how Sensei could play the same pool as these tools. Exactly. I think Adobe has all the levers to pull. And I think Sensei is just the way to kind of frame it. I totally % agree. Will they want to integrate with a copy AI? Do they want to integrate with a Jasper AI? Do they want to integrate with some of these other tools? Maybe, but I think if I'm an Adobe customer, I want Adobe bringing the best, smartest thing they can to my tool set. And I want it just baked in. I don't want to pay for other things. I just want it baked in, make my platform better for me and be able to deliver on that. So that is where I think, it's going to be interesting. And that is my kind of hot take where I think if I'm going to say that
this is an according to Fred hot take.
I think the hot take is Adobe Sensei is going to get a big upgrade at Adobe Summit this year. That's their big play that they say and how they kind of elevate the platform, show their maturity, show how they're helping their customers do more. My hot take is I think Adobe Sensei is it for sure. So this is where I'm going to kind of ramble just for a few minutes to see if anyone wants to do this. So I'm going to open up the back door. If you want to come join this conversation and talk about what you're excited about for Adobe Summit, I'm going to open up the green room. If you want to go to accordingtofred.com/FWF or Fridays with Fred, come into the green room. We'll join on for a couple of minutes here. We'll talk to some others and see if anyone wants to pop in. I'll bet at least one person will, right? But well, who else is excited about Adobe Summit? What are you excited about going? If you're going, what are you excited about? Drop a comment in. Let's talk, quickly to see if anyone wants to bring in a comment, bring in a perspective. What did I miss? What are you, if you've been to Adobe Summit, what are you excited about? Let's see what anyone has to say anything. Let's see what the comments. Anyone got any comments to say anything? Not yet. I'm going to start putting on the Jeopardy music here in a second. Maybe someone's scrambling to try and join. Hopefully the link actually still works as it should. No, I should have thrown this tag up earlier. Didn't manage my show very well today. Well, it is T-minus 8 days. Not enough days before we all head out to Vegas. And it is going to be, like I said, it's going to be a full dance card. They've sold out all their exhibits. I've seen the floor layout. It's going to be super exciting. Again, in person, back in Vegas. Interesting to be back. Exciting to be back for sure. I appreciate you guys hanging out on a Friday. I appreciate the interaction and kind of the comments in today's show. I guess I'll leave with this. Well, I'll see if anyone else wants to join. If you're gonna first time or haven't been to an in-person conference, here's my tips to make sure you manage Adobe Summit as best as possible. One, comfortable shoes. You got to wear comfortable shoes. Please do not walk around all day for 3 days straight and not have comfortable shoes on. No one's going to care if you're wearing sneakers. Definitely make sure you're wearing comfortable shoes. Second, make sure you have liquids, water. You don't want to stand in the Starbucks line every day for hours, and it will take that long because I don't think they do online mobile ordering ahead of time. It's going to be crowded. I would say definitely have your own liquids to take with you for sure. Make sure you're using the app. The more and more, they just released it yesterday or 2 days ago. Make sure you're available to be connected there. Use your LinkedIn network, use your Twitter network. Find and make in-person connections. There's definitely people that I've interacted with online for years and never met in real life, and they're going to be at Adobe Summit. So make sure you're taking the opportunity to do that. Set your schedule instead of just saying we'll randomly catch into each other. Make sure you set those meetings up or set those times up ahead of time. Those are my big tips. And then selfishly, I'll say, just go explore the community pavilion. Talk to vendors, see who's able to solve problems. Maybe you're not in a buyer's market right now, but at some point you will. If you actually want to read what Forrester and Gartner are saying, they're basically saying now's the time to double down on investments, and now's the time to get ahead of the curve while everyone's kind of pausing. Who's going to be the one that's going to be making the moves behind the scene and making the investments now that's going to rocket out of when everyone starts to open up budgets and everyone starts to open up the idea that we're kind of beyond what this recession might be and we move into a new market. The winners are going to be the ones that are making the investments now. They're not holding the purse strings. They're the ones that have laid down their cards, made their bets, and they're the ones that are going to be advanced in front of everybody else. So maybe that is your company. Maybe that's not your company, but I would definitely take advantage of talking to all the different vendors that are in the pavilion. You will find nuggets of information. You'll find that maybe when it's the right time, that one person, that one company that's gonna be able to help you advance your problems. Definitely make sure you're not missing out on that. They are an opportunity to engage with some great people and great companies. I highly recommend you take advantage of the community pavilion. And then the last thing that I will say, the different this year, usually is Bash. That is actually one of the things that is usually exciting. I've seen some great concerts at Adobe Summit in the past. This year, it's a new experience. They are sending us over to this place called Area 15. Funny that it's not Area 51, but we're going to have Run Red from Run DMC is going to be DJing, and then we have Macklemore is going to be there as well. So this immersive experience is where all of us are going to be on Wednesday night. It's going to be interesting for sure. I've never been. It's brand new. It's off the main area. It's going to be a short little bus ride, but it's going to be a different experience. It's going to be exciting, kind of maybe miss the big concert thing. I'm sure Macklemore will put on a great show. But I'm kind of missing the big name, maybe a bigger name or different type of name bands that they've had in the past. But it'll be fun. I think Run Red is going to be, I'm excited about that one. I'm almost might need to go buy some Adidas sneakers before I go off to Vegas. So, well, that's it. I'm going to wrap up today. Excited to be back in Vegas. Excited to be back at Adobe Summit. If you are there, please come and find me. We're going to be on the community pavilion. Bounteous is the company name. You will not be able to miss our booth. It is going to be big. It is beautiful. It is purple. That's how you're going to know where you can find us. You'll see us right as you walk in. So again, I'm Fred Faulkner, according to Fred. Thanks again for hanging out with me on a Friday with Fred. We'll catch you on the next one.